We start the story with Elle. She's in a bathrobe, and she's lingering in the kitchen looking at a still life of last night's dinner. So some empty wine glasses, plates. We do want to give that light impression that there was a dinner here last night, and it has something happen that's making her linger and look at it in this memory. And it's also given us a second to just look at Elle and to see her. Then we're going to follow her out of the cabin house and into the paper palace. And this is our first, we're going to introduce the setting. The Paper Palace is a cabin house in Cape Cod, or the fringes of Cape Cod, surrounded by woods. There's going to be pine needles under her feet as she's walking down the path and towards the pond for her very ritualistic morning swim. When she gets to the edge of the water, she drops the bathrobe, she eases into the water, and then dives in and swims out to the center. We're introducing the setting. We get a nice visual of the paper palace, of the pond, of the woods, of the cabin house. And we're getting this quiet time and silent time to just see and be with Elle and this very sacred routine of hers of going for this morning swim. Then back to the cabin house, and she goes into the kitchen and she's met by Wallace. And Wallace is her mother. It's just basic exchange, a morning exchange. They're making coffee, and as it's getting ready, they're having a conversation about last night. So Wallace says, I thought last night went well. Jonas was looking good. Of course, we don't know who Jonas is yet. We're verbally getting introduced to Jonas as well. So Wallace comments, what were you guys talking about? You were talking, all night. Jonas, he had such a crush on you when you were growing up. And Elle's like, come on, he was practically a kid. We were just kids. And Wallace is like, I think it was more than that. I think you broke his heart when you married Peter. Wallace is going at it about Jonas's wife and life partner, Gina, and how she's boring and how he should leave her because they don't have kids. But we want to get established and get really introduced to Wallace, who has really no filter with her mouth. She says what she thinks. She's crass. She can be brutally honest. Sometimes she can cross lines for sure. And also just get really introduced to Wallace's tone, which can be quite abrasive. Wallace goes for her morning swim. And as Wallace leaves, Peter comes in. And Peter is Eleanor's husband. They kiss each other and they begin morning ritual, the morning routine of making breakfast. You make breakfast, I'll go get the kids awake and round them up. What we're wanting to do with this scene, establish Elle's ordinary world. We got the morning swim. Her mother is very much in her life and very important person in her life and a main character. We get introduced to Wallace and their dynamic and their conversation in this. And then also with Peter. So this is Eleanor's again, her ordinary life. This is my husband. And we have kids as well. She's a mother as well. There's a little playfulness between Elle and Peter. We want to show, again, some of the dynamics of their relationship and of their marriage. She tries to take a bite of the food, and he hits her with a spatula, and they're bumping hips, this kind of thing. We're getting a feel and a vibe for their synergy. So they finish breakfast, and Wallace rejoins them from the swim. Elle's phone rings and buzzes. Peter sees it, and he gets to her phone before Elle does. Jonas is texting you. He wants to know if we want to meet him at the beach, him and Gina at the beach. Maddie and Finn are like, sure, awesome, boogie boards, rock and roll, let's do this. Jack's, no, I've made plans. Can I take the car? Elle's, no, you can't take the car because last time you didn't fill up the tank. Being a mother, going back and forth with a teenager kid who wants to borrow the keys to the car. He doesn't get the car, and he's angry, and as he's leaving, he's, how can you stand being married to such a bitch? Peter finds this funny and laughs. He's like, you make a good point. And he's laughing, and Elle is, whoa, Peter, what the hell is that? Oh, it's part of the separation process. Teenagers act like this. Elle is like, he just called me a bitch, and you're laughing about it, and that encourages him because he takes his cues from you. I'm going to town to buy some smokes. Anybody need anything? And Elle's just, hey, we're in the middle of a conversation here. Don't make this about you, Peter. And Peter's like, the eyebrows go up, and he's just like this kind of stern. He's like, you really want to go there? And Elle gets a little jittery and yields back. And she's just like, I'm sorry. Like, okay, I'm sorry. And Peter goes out. He gets in the car. And he drives away. Elle takes the deep sigh. She goes and joins Finn and Maddie on the couch, who's glued to the screens. And she plumps down between them, lets out a sigh, lets her head back, and closes her eyes and goes back into a memory of last night. We do flash into that memory. They're all at the dinner table. Jonas is there, and he's reading a poem. We've established a bit about Jonas, right? With the conversation with Wallace, we understand that he's a friend of the family, that they've known each other since they were kids, that he had a crush on her growing up. We know a bit about Jonas and a bit about Elle and Jonas. So it's night, and Jonas is reading this poem at the dinner table, and him and Elle have just a furnace between them. Their eyes are locked. There is a deep gravity between them. He finishes off the poem. We shall read it, why not? So, we look before and after and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. Elle gets up from the table and sneaks outside the cabin house. It's night. She's in the woods, and she's waiting there in silence. And then Jonas emerges from outside, and we see him, and he's like, "Are you waiting for me?" And Elle's like, "Shh, come here." He comes to her outside the cabin house. Everybody's still inside. Pulls up her dress, enters her, and as he enters her, leans into her ear and whispers, "I love you." And then we come back to Elle on the couch in the present. The inciting incident is that Elle has sex with Jonas. Elle has sex with a man that is not her husband. By 10 minutes in, by 10 pages in, we've established Eleanor Bishop, or Elle is our protagonist, and we've got a great sense of her ordinary world. We've established that. She's a mother, she's a wife. Wallace, her mother, is close to her. Paper Palace is the cabin house in the woods, in the fringes of Cape Cod, the pond and swimming. We're getting a sense of who she is and of her world, of her ordinary world. And the inciting incident in that ordinary world is that she had sex with Jonas last night. So as she reemerges from that flashback, Peter is back, and he's at the kids' cabin house where there's and Elle is up at the window, and she and Wallace are looking out at Peter talking to Jack. Wallace is encouraging her, reinforcing to Elle, "Hey, don't be a headache and don't be difficult. Peter is an incredible guy, an incredible husband. Appreciate him." Peter comes back in, dragging Jack with him. Jack apologizes. We want to show Peter's character, that he's a solid dad and a solid husband as well. It's not what Els has to say just gets brushed under the rug or goes in one ear out the other or isn't valued or something like that. They start to pack for the beach. We're going to the beach to meet Jonas and Gina. They get to the beach. It's hot as hell, and it's a summer day, a perfect Jaws day, as it's said in the book. We're also showing more of the setting, more of Paper Palace. We got the woods, we got the cabin house, we got the pond. Now we're going to pack the family in, and we're going to go to the beach. They're getting out of the car. They go down. They spot them. They go up to Gina first. They're all walking there, and they're waving and everything. They get together. They're sitting down. They have tents set up. They start putting on sunscreen. And this is the first time that we're going to get introduced to Gina, which is Jonas's wife. She's super friendly and kind of chirpy, and she's definitely different from Elle. That's also what we're doing. We're contrasting the two. Gina and Finn and Maddie, they go take off into the ocean. Jonas and Peter are talking. We're wanting to show that Jonas is a trusted friend of the family. Elle puts on some sunscreen on Peter. Elle hangs back. She's, I don't want to swim yet. Give me a minute. I need 30 minutes. It's pretty much her and Jonas finding a way to be alone again, or at least separate from them. They're not going to be alone. There's a shitload of people at the fucking beach. Peter's like, "Oh, don't make me wait long," and he goes into the ocean. But mission accomplished. Peter and Gina and the kids are all in the ocean, and Jonas and Elle are side by side in the tent with this little mesh divider between them. Jonas asks about where's Jack and why is he not there, and Elle tells him he's protesting and he's back at home because she wouldn't let him have the car. What's important with this is that it shows us that Elle is comfortable enough with Jonas that she's going to talk about her kids with him. Jonas rubs his hand against the mesh divider and he's like, "Can I come in?" She's like, "No." And then she puts her hand up and they go poem to poem. And then the topic of last night gets brought the fuck up. What happened? What have we done? And for Jonas's take is, we've done what we should have done a long time ago. And Elle is a much more like, ambivalent and maybe a little frightened. But while she's saying this, she still has her hand palm to palm. So it's still that Elle has this fire that's still going on. It didn't get washed away over the night. Jonas takes his hand away and then goes under the mesh and starts to rub on her inner thigh. We're wanting to create this very kind of forbidden, risky, and even morally questionable and ethical. They're really doing this with their wife and husband, Gina and Peter, and their kids out in the ocean. And yes, they are. Again, we're wanting to show the eroticism between them. So she leans back, she closes her eyes and puts a towel over her, and Jonas puts his fingers inside of her, and she's hiding and muffling moans, and she's like, "Oh, Gina and the kids are just out there," and Peter and Jonas is like, "I can see them. They're 100 yards out. They can't see anything." Again, we are really turning up the heat on this. And again, also even ethically getting next to the boundary. Oh my gosh, they're really doing this. We're still trying to kind of feel how we kind of think and feel about Elle. Can I really identify and get on board with what Elle is doing with this affair happening and doing this right at the face? Gina gets out of the water and she starts to come up, and he slowly pulls his fingers out and gets up to go and meet Gina. Elle gathers herself. This is the conclusion of that scene. This is an emotional thing as well. So you guys have had this burning light, you've had this attraction for each other since you were kids, and you're in your early mid-50s now, and this is coming to fruition now. We want to really build and establish that engine question of why now? Why is this happening now? Elle wants to go. Elle's, "Let's leave. I'm getting burnt to a crisp. Let's go home." The kids protest and they want to stay. Finn and Maddie are, "No, I want to stay, I want to stay." And Gina's, "Well, let them stay with us, and you guys can go. You and Peter can leave now and leave the kids with us. We'll drop them back at the cabin house later." Peter wants some alone time. He's, "All right, great, this is wonderful. We're going to leave." Peter and Elle pack and they leave. And when they get into the car, Peter is relieved. Oh, thank God. He puts his hand on Elle's thigh and kisses her, and because he's excited about the alone time. And Elle flinches. And they drive off, and they're going to go to Black Pond. So the next thing we see is the cars going down this overgrown, grassy kind of path, and we get to the Black Pond, a different pond than what's in front of the cabin house. Before they get out of the car, Peter stops, and he turns off the engine. "I want to apologize for this morning with Jack, and also for last night. I should have read Anna's poem, but I didn't. I was drunk. I was a bore. I'm sorry, I should have done that. I should have read Anna's poem." Elle's like, "It's okay. Jonas read it beautifully, and it just matters that we read this poem every year." This is important because it's also establishing and planting Anna. So we've established that Anna must be important and meaningful if you're going to read out this poem that she likes or that's meaningful to Anna each year. So Anna's meaningful, and that Anna's not here anymore. But it's also, again, it's revealing more of Peter's character. Again, what type of guy he is. Again, he's just trying to acknowledge that. I was a bore. I should have fucking read the poem last night. I was too drunk, and I'm sorry. He's taking accountability for that. So being a good partner. Because we're wanting to build that ambivalence and that conflict that Peter's a fucking great guy, and she might have this super passion thing going on with Jonas, but then Peter's this really good guy. Seems like a really good guy kind of thing. So they go into Black Pond and they go for the swim. She goes first and he swims up to her, catches up with her, and he tries to hold her, and he's wanting to sexualize. He came there to have sex, some alone time. She wiggles away from him and is, "Come on, we're going to be late and we have to get back to the cabin house." And Peter's, "Come on, it'll be 5 minutes." "Exactly. I need at least 10. And then she goes and swims back to the car. It's also showing that, again, this affair and this thing that's going on with her and Jonas, there's going to be a time limit on that. She's not going to be able to dodge having sex with her husband forever. This is the black pond scene. She swims back, and I get in the car, and we go back to the cabin house. We're back at the cabin house. Peter is making margaritas, and Wallace is happy to join him. And they offer Elle and no after my swim. Tell Jonas and Gina I'll see them tomorrow, and bye. So Elle leaves the cabin house and goes to the pond for her afternoon swim. Let's go there, shall we? Elle strokes out to the center of the pond, turns over and does the dead man's float. Holds her breath for a few beats, then suddenly jerks her head out of the water, her legs too, and then dashes away in panic. Jonas pops out of the water in front of her, laughing. Are you insane? I thought you were a snapper. Elle tries to swim away, but Jonas grabs her hips. I'm not letting go. You're a jerk. I'm not. Pulls her closer. You know I'm not. You were late. Your children are fish. Elle nods, sighs, and relents. They tread water, apart, but together. Elle is flustered, worried. I think Gina knows something. She gave me this really weird look at the beach, and I should be filled with guilt. I should be filled with agonizing guilt for this. What's wrong with me? Jonas is like, it's all right. She doesn't know. And look, I love Gina, but I carry you in my bloodstream. I can't help this. This is a deeper connection. Elle is just like, I'm not going to leave. I can't do this. And you should go back to Gina. Go swim to pretty much push him away. Go swim back to Gina. Go there. If that's really where you're at, okay. And he swims away. And as he swims away, Elle is treading water and she's watching him. She swims after him and she jerks him underwater, maybe a little bit of payback, and kisses him underwater, a long, hard kiss underwater. And when they reemerge, Jonas is gasping for breath. Oh, you're trying to kill me. And she's like, maybe it would be easier. And Jonas says, for fuck's sake, Elle, I spent my entire life waiting for last night. Don't take it back. I have to. I'm going to. I just can't face it quite yet. Don't. And they take a long look at each other. Elle, I need to get back. Jonas, wait, I want to show you something first. 10 minutes. Elle nods, and then they swim in tandem to the shore. Jonas leads her down this path of thicket overgrown green, a rage of green, and they get to this abandoned house. They lay on the ground, they lay on the grass, and they relive a bit of the memory of this abandoned house when they were kids, and they made this promise. This could be our house when we're older and married, and we'd have a boiler, and that could be the bedroom over there, which again is really important because it's establishing characteristics of this affair. He's not somebody new in her life. He's not somebody that they had some chance encounter once and now they're clinging on to something. This is not an affair where Elle is, I'm bored and I just need some zest of life and some thrill of excitement, so I'm going to have this affair with this guy. You know, it's not. It's really important to make clear and really embed how deep and how long that this attraction between them has been going on. And we're building that question, that engine question of why now? If your connection was that strong and so strong and you had all these things going on, why now in your 50s is this happening when you're both married and there doesn't seem to be anything so wrong with your spouses? It'd be an easy decision if Peter was abusive or cold or distant, these things. It'd be such an easy choice for Elle. I'd just be like, let me go with Jonas because it's an easy choice. But it's not. He's not that. Yet she still took action and still has this attraction with Jonas. And we don't know Gina as much, but again, from what we get a sense of is it's not something so terrible. So again, we want to build up that question, that engine question of why now? Why is this happening now? They're laying on the grass, reliving these memories. Jonas rolls on top of her and starts to kiss her body. The sex is swelling in her. Jonas stares deep into Elle's eyes. intense, never once looking away. Attraction and sex well in their eyes. Jonas spreads her legs wide, open, and enters her. She moans. Jonas growls into a pulsating orgasm. His chest collapses onto hers. Elle, don't move. Stay inside me. They lay like that, enmeshed, two bodies, one soul. Jonas runs his fingers along her neck and shoulder. Elle, you should never have left me. This is a disaster. You said you wanted Peter. Not then. After that summer, you never came back. I left for your sake. I had no one but you to talk to. No way to get any of it out of my head. Even moving to a different country did nothing. Elle rolls free of Jonas, sits up, and reties her bathing suit top. What we're getting here is more of the breadcrumbs of what happened. We're getting backstory between them. What happened leading to this? What happened that summer? Why didn't you come back? You moved to a different country to get something out of your head, and it didn't work? Jonas, have you ever told Peter about Conrad? Well, of course not. Jonas, I just meant you've been married a long time. I would understand. Elle, I wish Peter knew. I hate that has always been this lie between us. It isn't fair to him, but he doesn't, and he never will. Jonas sits up and puts his arms around Elle. Jonas, I'm sorry. Elle, I have to get going. Peter will start to worry. Jonas, no. Jonas takes Elle's hair in his fists, kisses her, rough, hard, unhinged. Elle's arms hesitate in the air, then collapse around him, kissing him hard back. Elle then breaks away and scrambles to her feet, desperate. Jonas. Elle, wait. Elle. Conrad ruined everything. Elle quickly treks back through the woods to the pond. Elle dives into the water and strokes ardently away. She stops in the middle and treads water, turns to see the figure of Jonas emerge from the woods, watching her. She turns the other way, towards the cabin house, towards Peter, the kids, and Wallace. Elle ducks back underwater, kicking her legs and swimming to the cabin house. Yeah. Now we have all the pieces of the question that we're going to go through Act 2A with, 2B, all the way to the third. But it's who's Conrad? How did he ruin everything? So we still have the engine question of why now? Why 40 years later is it happening? And we're starting to get those pieces. Did you ever tell Peter about Conrad? Who's Conrad? How he ruined everything. And we're also getting, she has a secret with Jonas that she's never told Peter. And that's going to conclude our Act 1. Act 2A is going to be the first time in the screenplay that we go back in Elle's timeline. She's 12, 13 years old, so we're going to get to see the world from Elle's teenager point of view. What I thought was really important is that Elle doesn't have a secure attachment. this time. We introduced Anna the first time, her sister, and they have a pretty icy relationship. She has her moments, but they're not that tight. They don't have the camaraderie that they develop later on. Then with Henry, her father, this is the first time that he gets introduced. He's not dependable for Elle, and Elle wants him to be the dad that he's just not. Henry has the tendency to always choose whatever woman that he's with at the time over his 2 daughters. But again, she's not feeling this secure attachment. With Wallace, it's her most reliable attachment or relationship, but Wallace is still, she's very brackish and she's standoffish. You could kind of argue, is she really emotionally available for Elle? Is she really somebody that she can really trust and depend on, kind of thing? And we're going to get introduced to Leo, which is Wallace's boyfriend, and his 2 kids, Rosemary and Conrad. The relationship with Conrad is he's very pestering, he's very annoying. But there's this great line that I love from Wallace that kills me. She's on the phone, and he says, her ex-wife wants him dead. If it were up to her, Leo would never see his children again. She lowers her voice, though no one is really around. Frankly, I'm with her, but don't you dare repeat that. They aren't very likable children, though I suppose very few people actually like other people's children. Leo says the boy hates to get in the water, so being on the pond with him in this infernal heat is bound to be an absolute nightmare. And then you have the scene with Joanne where she has this line of, I didn't sign up to be a mother. Again, I really wanted to stress the point that Elle, 12 and 13, she doesn't have the secure attachment or this really safe place. She does, and that's really Paper Palace. It's why that place is so sacred to her. She's having her summer there at Paper Palace, and she's 12, 13, she's becoming a woman, and she has her first period. She has a tampon, and she's in the bathroom. Conrad is in the window spying on her. And there's this moment of embarrassment and repulsed and angry and all this kind of things, but it's a very key moment and a key scene. Not only is it just showing Elle becoming a woman and her just general path and timeline as a person, but it also is going to show and plant that seed of Conrad and his serious lack of boundaries. Spy into a window as Elle tries to put a tampon. She escapes at her embarrassment, meets Jonas as she's in the canoe, and Jonas is in the tree and he's trying to catch a snapper. They meet and they catch a snapper together. They have wonderful rapport because they can disagree and still carry on. He wants to keep the snapper and she's, no, let him go. And they compromise and they carry on. They're able to have disagreements and it not break their camaraderie. But it's boy meets girl. That's what's going on, boy meets girl there. For Jonas, I thought it was another really important thing that we showed, that the Paper Palace is sacred to Jonas as well. He knows the cattails, he knows the ponds, he knows all these different birds. He loves that place as much as Elle. So that summer, they experience it together. They have always those memories together. They're sharing this sacred place together. And as they're going through all this, Conrad is pestering and mocking and making fun of and just jabbing at her and Jonas, which on some level is normal teenage stuff. You tease and make fun of, oh, you like him and she likes you, and K-I-S-S-I-N-G, you know what I mean? This kind of stuff. So the summer ends, and it ends with Jonas and Elle sharing a first kiss underwater, establish their romantic spark, even as a kid. Young love. So that summer's over, and they leave the Paper Palace, and when they go back to New York, and in the New York apartment, Elle wakes up on multiple nights and sees a figure, a silhouette in the dark, and her nightgown being pulled up. She spots that it is Conrad. Conrad is sneaking in her room at night and sexually assaulting her. It starts with the groping, and it escalates into the ejaculation. She's faking to be asleep. Another thing I thought was really important in that is that first time when it happens, Elle goes to Wallace, wants to tell her. She's close to telling her, but doesn't. That's important to show. It's right there and on the cusp and wants to tell Wallace, but doesn't. And I think it says, a lot about the relationship. And again, really more about isolation that Elle feels in the end, back to that of not having somebody that she can really trust and depend on, because she didn't even get the chance to really tell Henry and tell her father. She pretty much has an absent father. Then Wallace is unapproachable in this way, or she doesn't trust her enough to come to her with that. And that's on top of the psychological battle that Elle has of just shame, where she doesn't even want to say it out loud, because if she says it out loud, then it's out there and it's real, and deals with some of the psychology that comes with sexual abuse and child sexual abuse, some of the psychology that happens from that. So Elle's having her own obstacles as well. She has her own internal obstacle, and then also it's like she doesn't feel safe and trustful enough to come to Wallace or to anybody else around her. They go back to the Paper Palace in the following summer, and the first night there, Conrad rapes her. And she does lose her virginity that way, and it is horrific. She runs out that night, and that all the trauma that comes along with that is hitting. She can't wash her body enough. She can't get clean enough. She feels tainted. There's this disassociation with the body that happens. So she's going through all that, and she's going through it alone. She's going through it alone. She goes to Wallace, and she's on the cusp of telling Wallace again, because it's gotten so bad, and she can't do it. Elle goes and she fakes being sick, and again she's going through kind of this psychological, terror that happens. She's faking being sick. She's isolating herself. She can't be around Conrad. Another really important part is that Jonas is coming to the cabins each day and trying to see her, and he's being turned away. She's really sick. She's really sick. First chance she gets, she goes to sailing lessons, far away from Conrad. And Jonas is there, and she's brought to life almost by his presence, and she immediately has this response to him, and she's happy to see him. Jonas is somebody that she does trust, that she does feel safe with, that on some level is a secure attachment, even though it's not quite developed yet. So they start taking sailing lessons, and she trying to establish some normalcy and still having dinner at the dinner table with Connor. She just can't be alone with him, but she's trying to carry on in some way. Now she has a beach day. They go to the beach. Conrad invites himself and tags along and gets into this. Elle flakes off, and she's very angry, and Jonas is very confused about it. But what's important in this, and what we need to, this scene, Conrad tells Jonas, don't get your hopes up. She lets me feel her up, which is another veil that Conrad has this twisted up narrative in his head. The point is that Jonas hears this. We get back to the sailing lessons in the sailing boat, and we have Elle and Jonas alone on the sailing boat. It's raining. They get stranded out there. But again, what we need to happen is that Jonas confronts Elle about Conrad, tells her what Conrad said, and he's bringing it up. Jonas, he's bringing this up and kind of confronting her, making her either lie about it or tell the truth. And she tells the truth. She's unraveling and crying, and at first she's like, I never did any of this. He's so disgusting and he's repulsive, and it leads to her opening up and telling Jonas everything that happened, that he has assaulted her, that he does hurt her in all the worst ways possible. Jonas is, of course, and then Jonas is going to be infuriated. So Jonas knows. Elle has spoke it and brought it to the surface and let that out and said it out loud, which is really important to do. And the following scenes, Leo wants a family day, and he's like, we're going to go out sailing. And Elle insists that Jonas comes because Conrad's a shitty swimmer, but really underneath, she can't be alone with him. So she insists that Jonas comes, and we've set the table for this confrontation to happen. Leo shoves them out to sea. It's rough waters, and maybe a storm is coming, but it's Jonas, Elle, and Conrad. And they're out on the water, and Conrad he's just still carrying on being a fuckwad. The water gets more rough, and the boom hits, and Conrad goes flying off the boat. He is drowning. He's flailing and screaming for help. Elle is going to untie the knot to throw him the life preserver, and Jonas takes her hands and settles her to just let it happen and let him drown. Because if Conrad drowns, then he can never hurt you again. Jonas is right there with her, makes that decision with her. Conrad drowns and dies. In the aftermath, Leo is grief-stricken. Wallace and Leo end. There's the funeral, and Leo can't really recover. He cannot be with Wallace anymore, and they end. Wallace is pregnant. Wallace has a miscarriage. She loses the baby. What that also does to Elle's psychology. So it's compounded with the sexual assault, Conrad dying. Now I've ruined my mother's life. Now she's alone. Leo has left her. She had a miscarriage. She lost a baby. And now Elle is, that's my fault. Wallace, she becomes a ghost of herself. She becomes a shell of herself. With Jonas, they're making this blood oath to never tell anybody about what happened with Conrad, and he gives her the very important green glass ring. The following summer, Jonas gets sent away. He gets sent away to a different camp, and so she doesn't see Jonas again. That she loses Jonas. She loses the one person, the most secure attachment, the one she can trust, the one that knows everything. She doesn't have to hide anything. She loses him too. We understand how Conrad ruined everything and why. We understand the trauma that Elle is carrying and the complexities of her and Jonas and why her and Jonas have this entanglement, this emotional entanglement, psychological entanglement. After that midpoint, I thought it was important to go back to the present day, to her in her 50s and her family. So we go back, and this is her after she's left the abandoned house and swam back. Peter's in the living room playing Parcheesi. Let's touch base, come back to the present moment. Let's see her, Wallace. We're going to look at Wallace even in a different way. We're going to understand Wallace more. Then give us the visual of Peter and the kids. Because that's the next question that we're going to launch into Act 2B with, is where'd Peter come from? How'd Peter happen? We're going to go back into Elle's timeline again. She's 21, 22. She's living in London. She's going to uni there. And this is where she meets Peter. The way they meet is she is coming home from a pub and she gets attacked by a mugger, demands her cash, she gives it over. The mugger wants her green glass ring that she got from Jonas. She's still wearing it. It's also showing that she still has the ring. She wears the ring. And she also refuses to give it to the mugger. She spits in his face, tells him to fuck off. It's important to see Elle as she's a young woman now, how tough or hardened that she is, and then also how much that green glass ring means to her. Peter emerges with a tire iron, knocks him out, saves Elle. He gives her a ride home. The relationship takes off from there, and they start dating. The dating leads to intimacy when they are getting ready to have sex for the first time. He's unbuttoning her shirt and her pants, and she stops him, makes the point of, I have to do this myself. Peter is on her time, very acceptance. He's not sly. He's not trying to push the envelope or being sloppy about anything, which is perfect. She needs that, and he very much responds to that in a way that makes Elle trust him and be okay with being vulnerable with him and being okay with taking off all her clothes and having sex with him for the first time. It's also showing the aftermath from the childhood abuse, that, again, that she needs that agency to take off and unbutton her own pants and not have him do it. It's just, again, showing the aftermath of the abuse that she experienced. Then we go back to New York during the holidays, and we see Elle and Anna, so we touch base with Anna, her sister, and they have just left their father's apartment for Christmas, and they're carrying gifts, and see how Anna and Elle's relationship or kinship is developing and changing as they grow older. They're in their mid-20s now. They're taking shots at their dad and taking shots at the new girlfriend. He's not with Joanne anymore, he's with Mary. And it's, again, it's still just being let down and being disappointed by their father, Henry. It's just, yeah, he has this tendency to always he prioritizes the woman over his two daughters. When they get back to Wallace's apartment, they are stopped by Wallace. Wallace got a phone call from Henry and the girlfriend that they're missing their marijuana stash. And Wallace is like, I need you to strip search, and I told your father I would search for the weed. Elle calls Peter to vent, so as she's complaining and saying all her problems with Henry, her father, Peter is very level-headed and he has the tendency to be very like a mediator. That's what's important in that phone conversation. It's also alluded that Peter's going to come and visit New York and meet the parents and also show that their relationship is growing, that it's escalating to now you're meeting parents and setting the stage for a marriage or a more serious relationship. This nudges Elle to try to reconcile with Henry. And this is what she does. She tries. So she goes out, she goes through the snow, she goes back to Henry's apartment, rings the doorbell, they don't answer. She's very determined still and walks to a Greek diner down the street to call Henry Mary. She's going to try to reconcile with her father. It does not go well. There is no reconciliation that happens. Well, there is, but in the form of being severed. Henry doesn't come to the phone, and Mary's in between them, and it's everything that Els criticizes her father about. It this time is like, I don't want to talk anymore. This relationship is severed. Fuck off and fuck off for good. And so that's what happens with that phone call. And then as Elle is leaving the diner, she hears a familiar voice call out her name. It's Jonas. They haven't seen each other since they were kids. So this has been 7 years later. She sits down and we have Elle and we have Jonas together again, sitting in the diner, face to face, in their mid-20s. He's a painter, and he's living not far from there. Ask her about her life, and that she's living in London, and that she's studying French lit, and they're just catching up. Jonas notices that she's wearing the green glass ring. You still wear the green glass ring? And she's like, yes, and almost got stolen from me by a mugger. I was attacked and punched in the stomach, but Peter, my boyfriend and who I'm with now, saved me from it and stopped the mugger, and I wouldn't still have the ring without him. He's the ring guy. We're seeing this dynamic between Elle and Jonas, their dynamic, which is different from her and Peter. So we have this contrast. We're getting to see a contrast. And the other really big point to show the contrast between Peter and Jonas is regarding the father, Henry. Because as soon as he sits down, he's like, what are you doing here? Well, I was just on the phone breaking up with my father. And Jonas' response is so key, and it says so much. That was always in the cards. It says so much between them. So much difference between the way Peter is nudging, no, you should reconcile, which again is sensible, it makes sense, there's nothing wrong with it. But Jonas's response is different. It was always in the card. He's a fuckhead, and he's going to keep doing what he has been doing all your childhood and all your life. It's more of what Elle was really looking for, is a teammate and not this voice of therapeutic reason. So it's, again, we're seeing the difference in the contrast between Peter and Jonas, and then Elle's dynamic with both of them. So, but she wants to give the ring back. She has to leave and catch a train. Jonas says no, insists on her keeping it. Jonas, another one, is that he doesn't harbor any type of guilt about Conrad. He's like, he was hurting you, and I don't regret what happened. And Elle does. Elle very much has a shame and a deeper guilt carrying that. So there's, again, a little bit of a difference there that's important to see. So Jonas walks her to the train station, and they're getting ready to say bye, and Jonas pulls her and kisses her. Even though she pushes him away in agony, but Elle is still lights up with Jonas. She still responds emotionally, physically, romantically to Jonas. That spark is still is what's really so important at that kiss at the train, is that fire between them is still there. It wasn't just when they were kids. Here they are 7-8 years later in their early 20s, and they still have this natural fluidity between them. And there is the very wonderful line that Jonas says, Peter's not the ring guy, I'm the ring guy. Peter arrives to New York to meet the family. When Peter arrives, the effect that it has on Wallace. She is completely transformed with Peter's presence. She dresses different. She talks different. She has food organized in a certain way. It's almost like she has purpose again. Almost so where Elle doesn't all the way know how to process that or understand that. You're flirting with my man, or you're hitting on my future husband. Probably subconsciously. I'm not sure how much Elle would even realizes it. I'm sure she does on some level. Is this effect that Peter has on Wallace is filling a hole that Elle has concerning the guilt that she feels towards Wallace. Remember, she feels guilt, like it's my fault that her and Leo ended, and that she lost a baby, and that she become this shell of herself. Or really Elle's attachment to Peter and value that he has towards her, on top of other things. I mean, again, I want to emphasize on that Peter and Elle have their own love story, and she loves him for all the kind of right reasons or her own reasons, not just atonement for the mother. He is everything that she seeks. She seeks dependency. He's dependable. He's solid. I can count on him. He's strong. He's financially stable. He can take care of me. He protects me. He's all those things that she never got from the males in her life, primarily her father. On the days leading up, she tries to call Jonas a couple times. Once, twice, doesn't get an answer. That is important to show that right before she's making this long-term commitment to this man, she's reaching out to Jonas to kind of show that there's something still unresolved there, or there's something still tugging at her there. So even though Peter checks all the boxes and she really does love him, there's still something pulling her towards Jonas. He doesn't answer. He's not there. She carries on, walks down the aisle, marries Peter. They begin their married life, morning breath and toilet plungers, all the wonderful things that come with long-term companionship. They live in New York. Wallace is very much in their life. They go to the summers at Paper Palace. Peter has really joined her life there. They do not stay in London. So they are living in New York. They are married. They're doing the married life. Peter is a journalist. Elle is a professor of French Lit. After their marriage, she gets a call from Anna. She's sick. And Anna and Elle go to the Paper Palace. In the winter, it's really cold. And they have this moment between sisters where Anna reveals that she has ovarian cancer, that it's stage 4, and that it's terminal, and that she's going to die. Looking back at her life, which again, when you're facing your own mortality, these questions will come to the surface of, if I was a better person, if I was kinder, if I was nicer, if I didn't do these bad things or this bad thing, would this horrible thing that's happening to me be happening? And of course, for Elle, that makes her think of this horrible thing that I did. She tries to tell Anna. Remember when Leo was ranting around the house and he's blaming himself that day on the boat when Conrad, and she's cut. This is what I'm saying about Elle gets close to saying this so many times with Wallace, and now she's with Anna. She's right on the cusp of letting this out, of telling the people that matter the most to her around her the truth, and she just can't get over that hill. This is Elle's obstacle. She has to break out of that chrysalis. She has to overcome that obstacle. She does. No matter if this opportunity is awkward or that doesn't happen the way it doesn't matter. She's got to bust through, and she's got to really take ownership and regain that agency of her own timeline, her own wounds, and say it out there. We are in this scene for this reason. We really want to show the bond between the sisters, between Elle and Anna, and we're going to also show where Elle is trying to get that truth out about Conrad and doesn't. Anna dies, and after she dies, we, in the screenplay, go back to present day. Back to Elle at 50. So we're in the cabin house. Elle is in the kitchen preparing lunch. Peter, Wallace, and the kids come bursting through the door. They've just got back from the flea market. And as they come in, the phone starts ringing. Peter takes the call. He grabs a pen and starts writing down notes. When he hangs up, he tells Elle that was work and that he has to go to Memphis for a writing piece. Peter then invites Elle to come, persuades her to come, because then they'll have some alone time and they can have sex without Wallace being in the next room. And She agrees. Peter doesn't usually ask her to go on work trips. Wallace is dreading looking after the kids. He agrees, and it's all set. And another thing about Memphis is that is where Leo, Conrad, and Rosemary are from. We go to Memphis. We are with Elle, and she's going to the graveyard to find, by herself, to find Conrad's headstone. She does. She sits next to it. She tells Conrad, the ghost of Conrad, she's in this whisper voice about, you did horrible things to me. You hurt me, and you did horrible, horrific things to me. But you didn't deserve to die. I did something worse to you. I let you drown. I essentially killed you. Or let you die. This is this guilt that she has for that. Saying she's sorry. This is a step in the healing, resolving this. She is doing the steps to do that. And she needs to say what she needs to say to Conrad, even though if it's just a ghost of him or the headstone of him, she needs to say it, and she needs to say it out loud, even if it's a whisper. She goes back to the Memphis hotel bar, and Peter's there. They're having a conversation and brings up that Rosemary still lives in the city. Elle makes the choice and takes the actions and takes the steps herself to confront this. She looks up Rosemary. She goes and visits her at her house. Her and Rosemary sit down. They're having tea and carrot cake, moist because of the applesauce. Elle's looking around the house, and she's looking at the photos on the mantle, and she sees a picture of Leo. Leo is remarried their mom, and he's dead now. She notices that there's no pictures of Conrad. She talks to Rosemary about Conrad and about seeing her at the funeral. She starts to share with Elle how she often thinks and even fantasizes about seeing him drowning. This takes Elle off guard, and she's confused about this reaction. Rosemary is like, you know what I mean, right, Elle? I know you do. Reveals to Elle that Conrad came to her room each night and assaulted her each night. You know what I mean, because when he was doing this to me, he would be saying your name. The impact of this, or why this seems so important, is for Elle in her inner journey, is that Elle's not alone in the abuse. Jonas understands it and knows it, but he didn't share it. It didn't happen to him. It did with Rosemary. The other layer, or the important impact of Rosemary, is Rosemary's take on it and her reaction to her brother drowning and dying, which is very satisfying, to the line of maybe even taking pleasure in it. So you have Elle, who has it where she has a guilt to it, and she even self-punishes in a way, and she just really feels guilty and sorry and this stuff for what happened with Conrad. Jonas does not feel the same guilt Elle has. He feels justified in what they did. He does not feel guilty or even really sorry that he and they let Conrad drown. He'd do it again today. He feels very justified. He's hurting you. He's hurting somebody I care about. We let him drown. I don't feel bad about that. This is where Jonas is on the spectrum. Then you have this further side of the spectrum, or further away from Elle, which is Rosemary, who is, I prayed to God that he would die or he'd be taken away from me every night. And I really should be thanking you for taking him away and for him dying. I'm so relieved and satisfied that Conrad is dead. So she almost is a little the shadow figure, psychologically speaking, for Elle, where she has zero remorse and zero guilt. Not saying that she did it. Rosemary's not responsible for Conrad's death. So there's a difference there. I want to be clear on that. But it's that Rosemary's take on it is he was harming, assaulting, damaging to me, and I'm happy he's dead. The point is that this opens a floodgate inside of Elle where she can bulldoze through that guilt and not feel so guilty? Is she still sorry for what happened? Is she, yes, this is Elle and her own emotional alchemy, but the guilt, the obstacle, and the rock and the bag of rocks that she's carrying, she's setting that stuff down. The protein of the scene is that Rosemary was also having the abuse that Elle was experiencing. So there's this feeling that she's not alone in this. Then Rosemary's satisfaction and Conrad dying. This is what opens the floodgates a bit more for Elle to burst through this wall, this obstacle, this boulder that she's been carrying inside concerning Conrad. As soon as she leaves the house, she strolls on her phone on the sidewalk, and the name she looks up is Jonas. Once that boulder is gone and that knot is becoming untied, who does she run to, or who does she reach out to? Jonas. Jonas. That concludes the Memphis scenes, and we launch back into Anna's dinner. And we're at the cabin house, and it's Wallace, and it's Elle, and they're in the kitchen, and they're preparing to have Anna's remembrance dinner. Elle's telling her about visiting Conrad's grave, and that she went to go see Rosemary, and Leo got remarried. Wallace, naturally, because these are painful memories for her, she's dodging it and reluctant to really engage into the conversation. Elle's trying to push the envelope and trying to push the topic, and she wants to talk about it because she's still wanting to tell the truth about Conrad to her mother. And Wallace is just shuts it down. I have to get ready for this dinner, and I have to mince these vegetables. It's not the time right now. Elle is on her last thread of tolerance with it. And this is not Wallace's fault per se. This is Elle's responsibility. She's going to have to push through this. Everybody's around the table, and you have Jonas there, and his girlfriend Gina, and even Jonas's mother, and Dixon, who's awesome, and you have Wallace and Peter and the kids, and it's all for Anna's dinner, and everybody that knew Anna. To end the dinner, they read this poem that is very meaningful to Anna. It's one of her favorites, and they read it every year, and usually it's Peter, but this time it isn't. He's too tired and been drinking too much, which is totally okay. It's just he doesn't do it this year, and so Jonas does. As Jonas is reading the words, we look before and after and pine for what is not, and you're seeing this furnace and this synergy and this passion between Elle and Jonas. Now that obstacle is removed from between them. After Jonas reads the poem, him and Elle sneak outside and have sex for the first time. Now, the morning after is where we started the story from, so we're all caught up. The morning after, she wakes up, she sees the still life of last night's dinner, she goes on her morning swim, she comes back, has breakfast with the family, they meet Jonas and Gina at the beach, Elle and Jonas are still craving each other there, they go to the abandoned house, they have sex again, the abandoned house that they used to go to when they were kids. Elle swims back to the cabin house, and she's getting ready for Dixon's barbecue. We are fully caught up from where we started the story. We know all about Elle and the predicament that she's in and the conflict that she has to deal with. And this is the burning question that's going to drive us through the final act. Is she going to choose Jonas, or is she going to choose Peter? She's getting ready for the barbecue. She finds in her bag this folded up little green envelope. It has the green glass ring from Jonas, showing how deep their bond is and how long they've been waiting for this, deepening the consequences of the decision that she is going to have to make. She goes downstairs, and it's her and Wallace and Peter and the kids, and they're making their way to the barbecue through the woods. They go through the path. They arrive at Dixon's house, and he's having a big barbecue. It's a festive environment. You're going to have a lot of Wallace and Peter having a banger. They're going back and forth. Wallace wants the bloody steak, and she wants the gin. And Peter's saying, we got to have you committed. We want to continue the rapport and the connection that Wallace and Peter have. At the barbecue, again, it's a very festive environment that's going on. Jonas is flipping burgers and he burns his hand. He sizzles his hand on the grill. He goes inside. He's trying to tend to it, and Elle goes in there as well. So we want to get Elle and Jonas alone. In there, she grabs some butter, I believe, and is tending to the burn. Jonas asks, how are we going to do this? I need you. I want you. I've waited all my life for this. Elle is, I don't know if I can do this. You've got to stress how difficult of a decision this is for Elle. She's trying to fight it. She's trying to fight what she feels for Jonas and the gravity that she feels towards him. She doesn't want to give up Peter, the life that she built and everything. He is dependable. He is her rock. So she does not want to really do that, because that is a whole lot of change. The thing is that her gravity and her attraction towards Jonas is just so deep. It's overwhelming a bit for her. She craves him too. She wants him too every second, and not in this blissful, lustful, I just want to escape my life kind of way. She wants him and is attracted to him on a very deep emotional and psychological level, and has been for many, many, many years. Not only when they were kids and they shared the first kiss, not only when he was there for her with Conrad, but in the 20s, they meet and they kiss in front of the train station, and she tries to call him before she gets married. And what has changed is that those obstacles that were in the way of her and Jonas are gone. These emotions are able to come out, and now that they're out, they're never going back in their cage, and she's wrestling with that. And there's this great line in there where she's whispering, almost begging him, please let me go. Let me be free of you and this feeling, because I'm defenseless against it. It shows a lot of the weight of the decision that Elle's is being confronted with. As she's tending to Jonas's wound and they're having this back and forth with it, Peter comes in the door and catches them having this moment of locked eye to eye with passion and attraction. Elle plays it off, and Jonas burned his hand and sidesteps it and deflects it. It's really important that Peter is at the door and he is catching them, because it's not only is it raising the stakes or putting pressure on Elle, it's more of putting the pressure of reality of, you can't keep this a secret. You have to make a decision. Elle and Jonas is not some affair that you want to whisper in the dark and it's just, let's never tell. It ain't happening. So Peter comes in, he catches them, Elle plays it off and goes back to the party. The party concludes, they're going back. Peter's leading the way back to the cabin. When they get back to the cabin house, Peter does confront Elle about what he feels like he stumbled in on at Dixon's barbecue. Elle downplays it. She's like, come on, it's Jonas. He's our oldest friend. And that's not enough. Peter's like, no, he's your oldest friend. Elle doubles down, and it's, Jonas, come on. That would be like incest. And this works. This works on Peter. Peter takes a deep sigh, and he's relieved. He's bought it. Pulls Elle close, like to reclaim her, starts kissing her a bit, and wants to turn it sexual. And Elle stops him, still trying to escape out of this predicament. And she's like, I'm going to go tuck in the kids. You stay here. I'll be back. With that scene, the pressure it's peaking. She can't hide this anymore. Her and Jonas is not something that can be hidden. And then on top of that, it's another and last chance for her to tell the truth to Peter. And she doesn't. I feel like she's had those crossroad moments in Memphis. She could have. She could have opened up about Conrad and Rose. Like, she could have told Peter then really about it. She doesn't. And then it is an opportunity where if she really loved Peter in the sense of seeing a future with him and wanted the relationship to survive, it could have been like, break down and tell the truth that, yes, I've had an affair with Jonas, and start to open up and tell Peter. She doesn't. That's her choice. The actions are speaking pretty loud. But again, that's just another layer to the scene, I think that's important, that's going on in that argument between Peter and Elle. She leaves, and she's going to tuck in her kids. With this scene, it's much about her, because after that, I feel Elle's starting to know what's coming. She knows that there's this big change that's going to happen and take place. When she's there in the cabin house with her kids and reading book, Johnny the Crow, and just having a mother-kids bond moment, it's really a cherishing that and thinking what they're going to go through, putting kids through a big change like this. So it's like there's just this weight as well, hugging her kids. She's not running away with some stranger and leaving her kids behind. It's not happening. Life will carry on. She will always be present and always love Jack, Finn, and Maddie. She will always love them and be their mother and be very present. It's not she's running away or abandoning her kids, but there's a big change is coming. She tucks her kids in. She leaves and she's walking back to the cabin house, and Wallace is on the porch, last glass of wine. Elle joins her. As soon as they start talking, Elle goes back into Memphis and visiting Conrad's grave and Rosemary. Wallace is not wanting to talk about it, tries to deflect. And Elle stands her ground. You finished? Okay. No, we're going to talk about this. When I was talking with Rosemary, she revealed that Conrad had been coming into her room at night and assaulting her. And that Conrad was also doing that to me. This is Elle fully breaking through, fully regaining agency in the sense of I'm speaking my truth, this trauma knot, to Wallace. Telling her, Conrad raped me. Wallace is shocked and then deflated. A light in her dims. And the first question is, why didn't you tell me? And Elle says, I should have. Life's full of those, huh? Wallace asks Conrad in the boat. Elle, again, full truth. The boom hit Conrad. He fell in the water. We knew he wasn't a good swimmer, so we didn't throw him the life jacket. Wallace is going to get hit with a level of deflation. Then she's remembering that, oh, Jonas. Jonas was with you on the boat that day. And again, full transparency, full truth coming to the surface. Jonas was the only one that knew about Conrad raping me and assaulting me. And he's the only one that knew what we did on the boat, which was let Conrad drown. Wallace is trying to process, and I don't want to say reverts, to kind of an old record that she has in her head about Jonas, but in a way. She says, Jonas, you guys were always inseparable when you were kids, and he had such a crush on you, and I think you broke his heart when you married Peter, and he loved you. And Elle says, I loved him too. Wallace stands up, embraces Elle. They have a mother-daughter moment. And Wallace retires for the night. I'm hitting hay. My bones are aching. This is about Elle. And Elle taking full agency of her timeline and of her truth and of saying it. Elle needed to do this. This is not about asking for permission. It's a lot more assertiveness coming from, not animosity. I won't say that there isn't any unspoken blame or resentment. I think there may not blame, but some resentment for Elle towards Wallace. I do think that is definitely an element of their relationship, but it's not blame. It's not you let this happen. This is your fault. No. This is about Elle saying and speaking her truth. Not asking for permission, not being sidestepped, not being silenced or deflexed, anything like that. No, it's like, I need to say this for me. This is about me, not you, Wallace. This is about me and what happened to me. And I need to say this. And I'm going to. And she does. Elle takes a minute on the porch, processes that. This has been really Elle's big antagonist and big obstacle to overcome, is saying it and speaking her truth out loud. She goes back upstairs, crawls in bed next to Peter, who's already asleep. Elle wakes up to a storm. There's this night storm that's going on. There's thunder and wind and rain drilling against the window. She wakes up and she's excited by it. She finds it fascinating and beautiful. She tries to wake up Peter. Hey, wake up, this is a storm. Peter, long dallies to hire, and he doesn't maybe share the same enthusiasm. Rolls over and, let me sleep, is off. Morning comes. She is getting ready to go for her swim. Jonas on the other side of that pond, waiting for her. She takes off her wedding ring, holds it close to her chest, hugs it, goodbye, and leaves it on the stairs, the steps of the cabin. And she walks down the path to the pond to Jonas. And this is the end.